David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another video. Today I have something very different, different than anything I have previously reviewed. There are times when companies contact me in regard to products they would like to potentially have featured on this channel. Sometimes I feel those items are a good match for my audience. For example, would be the desk that I used for my office renovation a few videos ago. A company by the name of Coppertist contacted me to see if I would review a pen stand. And I will admit that at first I really wasn't interested. I have nothing against pen stands, but I don't find myself using one that often. I have several pen wells from Good Made Better I use daily, but I would consider those to be a little bit different than a traditional artistic pen stand. I know the crab pen stands are really popular. I've been to several pen shows where they are offered. Like I said, nothing against them. I just don't find myself attracted to using a stand like that. After Coppertist had made a couple of attempts to contact me, I finally relented, letting them know that I wasn't committing to do a feature review of this item, but I'd potentially feature it in a review of a pen, just to show it off a bit during the size comparisons. They agreed, and after I received the stand, I was impressed with it enough that I felt that it should get a video of its own. It won't be the longest of videos, but there was enough to talk about here that I felt you might be interested in. So, in order to take a closer look at this intriguing desk adornment, please join me over here at camera 2. The stand arrives in this box. CoppertistWU is the name of the company. CoppertistWU.com is their website. The lid lifts off, and inside we have a little pouch, and inside we have the holder, which, as you can see, is a rattlesnake. Now, when I first saw this snake, it reminded me of the snakes I occasionally find in my yard. They are very young. For some reason, only the young ones hang out in my yard, not adults. But I find two kinds of snakes in my yard. There are rat snakes, which are harmless. If I find one of those, I carefully relocate it into the woods behind my house. But every so often, I find a copperhead. Now, those are venomous. Grammar lesson for the day: there is a difference between venomous and poisonous. Something poisonous will harm you if you bite it. Something venomous will harm it if it bites you. Okay, that's it for the grammar lesson. One of these days I'll talk about the differences between a podium and a lectern. Compelling grammar content. But if I find a copperhead, then those are, I will just say, disposed of as humanely as possible. But this here is a rattlesnake. I grew up in San Diego, and we did have rattlesnakes around. As a youngster, we would explore around canyons and large bushy areas, and it was always a bit frightening when all of a sudden you would hear the distinctive rattle of one of these snakes. Now, I used to think that this rattle was hollow and something was rattling inside of it, and that's not the case. The rattle is actually made of these loose pieces that are kind of interlocking with each other, and there's some play in there. So the pieces move around a bit, and when the snake vibrates the tip of its tail, what you hear are these pieces kind of banging against each other. Okay, that's enough snake talk. Let's actually take a closer look at this pen stand. It is made from brass and has an impressive weight to it. It feels really solid. There's also a version of this that's made from solid silver. Let's take a look at the detail here. First of all, this looks very realistic. I've seen snakes in the wild take similar defensive stances. This is a defensive stance because I'm assuming he's a he. Well, there's nothing here on the bottom to determine that, so we'll go with he. But he is coiled up here, ready to lunge. So without moving this part of the body, he could reach a target, maybe around this far away, very quickly. There is a lot of really great detail here. The eyes are a black zirconia. That it's tough to see in here, but you can insert some incense down his throat. I'm not sure how much he likes that, but he's built to accommodate that. These scales look really nice. While it is bumpy, you can rub your finger with the grain of the scales just fine, but if you attempt to go against the scales, they literally bite into your skin. They're not harming you, but so you could only go the opposite way with a light touch. As I mentioned previously, this body is brass, and then the rattle here is sterling silver. The underbelly here looks very realistic as well. It has a little copper plate with the company name. Overall, this is a pretty cool little stand. Now, there's one main downside I felt it important to point out. Let's just take a pen here and set it on the stand. Now, I think it looks very nice on its perch, but as I mentioned previously, the scales here on the body and tail are rather sharp, and this is not a smooth surface. While it holds the pen very nicely, it would be my fear that over time the act of actually placing the pen on and off the stand might damage the exterior treatment of certain pens or cause micro scratches if a pen is apt to receiving those. Maybe I'm being overly paranoid, but when you are placing and removing the pen, most likely you're not like lifting it up directly vertical or laying it down directly vertical. There's a very slight movement to the left and right as you pick it up and set it down. And that movement against the sharp scales is the movement that has me concerned. If I had an expensive Urushi pen, I would be hesitant to use it with this stand. And maybe the scratches would be extremely minute. I didn't want to do a long-term experiment showing if there was actual damage over a significant period of time. And I'm not saying that this stand will damage your pens. I'm just saying that that would be something to be careful about. And I'm not quite certain how they can potentially rectify that. Maybe if these area of the pen were that the pens would come, or stand where the pen would come in contact with it, if they'd be just smoothed out a bit in a way that wouldn't alter the visual aesthetics of the stand. But other than that potential issue, I was impressed with this stand. Let's see how it looks with a couple of different pens. We saw it with the Lamy Safari. And then, you know what, I wanted to try something very small. So how about with a Kaweco Lilliput? Yeah, a Lilliput fits on here. Something slightly larger is the Kaweco Skyline Sport. And then something very large is this Collier Grande. So it fits pens of virtually all sizes. Now, these are available on the CoppertistWU website and sells for $79. If you use the code Figboot15, you can receive 15% off, which brings the cost down to around $67. While that's not inexpensive for a desk item, especially with the discount, I don't find that price to be unreasonable, especially when given the overall quality of this stand. And that was my very first impression when I pulled it out was, yeah, this feels like a quality piece. Okay, that is the Rattlesnake pen stand from CoppertistWU. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at something a little bit different. There is a link in the notes below where you can check this out on the company website. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.